President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, CFR, who has asked the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Zainab Ahmed, to represent him here this evening. On behalf of FBN Holdings and its chairman, Dr. Obao Tudeko, and FirstBank of Nigeria, PLC, and its chairman, Mrs. Ibuma Oshika, and indeed all the directors, past and present of the group and its subsidiaries, who along with dedicated and loyal staff throughout the country who have kept this institution going for 125 years. I welcome you all to this gala dinner. We welcome Their Excellencies, the governors present and represented, the honorable ministers represented here this evening, members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, past and present, distinguished academics, captains of industry, and a very special welcome to our royal fathers. Our royal fathers present here this evening, most especially the one with a special connection to FirstBank, His Highness Mohammed Sanusi II, Commander of the Order of the Niger, Sergeant Khan. We welcome you all, and during the course of what will be hopefully a very entertaining evening, an evening of celebration, we will have an opportunity to recognize this wonderful galaxy of eminent Nigerians that have come to join us. I have an ever-growing list, but we must start, as FirstBank and its subsidiaries like to do, with an opening prayer. So it's my great pleasure to invite Mr. Femi Bambo to come up and say an opening prayer for us. Mr. Femi Bambo.
Shall we pray? Our Father and our Lord, you are the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Father, you who know the end from the beginning, we thank you, Father, for the beginning of this bank 125 years ago. We thank you, Father, for how far you have brought the bank. We thank you, Father, for the impact that the bank has had on our nation, on this generation and many generations past. And we pray, Father, for the future, that this bank shall grow. None of us here, Father, shall see the end of this bank. This bank shall continue to grow in impact, in influence, in prosperity. It shall grow to the ends of the earth. Father, we pray that this evening you shall inspire us in ways that even we do not anticipate to carry this bank further. Everyone here has a contribution to make. Father, speak to each and every one of us for the future, that this bank shall be and continue to be the first bank of Nigeria. This we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Femi Bambo, for that opening prayer. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, one of the proudest gentlemen in the room tonight is the Group Chairman of FBN Holdings PLC, Dr. Obao Tudeko, CFR. And I use the word pride deliberately because he exudes it whenever he represents the bank, talks about the bank, its subsidiaries, and the work he has done along with very many people he has helped to guide and support in running FirstBank of Nigeria. And for today to be the chairman of the holding, FBN Holdings, on the occasion of 125 years of this Nigerian institution is a wonderful one indeed. I'd like to invite him now to make a few opening remarks, and I think we ought to congratulate him especially with a wonderful round of applause as he comes in.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, who is with us in spirit, because his staff are all here. Distinguished members of the Senate and the various houses of representatives and assembly, honorable ministers, both from Ghana and our own Minister of Finance, who is here seated, I want to particularly say thank you to them, both of them, because they have actually stayed with us. Our friends who are here, Your Royal Highness, one of us who has also benefited from the good fortune of FirstBank, because anybody who is associated with FirstBank is always fortunate. He became the emir because he worked in FirstBank. Of course, the business we are doing here is the business of banking. The first person I should recognize is our boss, the regulator who is here. And I specifically recognize you, our boss, the governor of the Central Bank. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests who are here, captains of industry. I can see one there who is a very serious captain. He used to be an apprentice of FirstBank, but is now a colleague. I'm talking of Jim Obia. If you don't know him, look at his mustache. You will know he is around. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's an evening of celebration. It's an evening of rejoicing. It's an evening for us to acknowledge how good the Lord has been to us. This God that we serve is a faithful God. He loves us, and as we have prayed, He continues to assure us that even from now on to the very end, He will be our God. I therefore have His permission to inform you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that He has actually blessed our gathering. So Baba Olubado is sitting here to confirm that the blessing of God is on this gathering. Therefore, please rejoice and be glad, because the Lord has blessed our gathering. We've been 125 years up till now. I promise you that the Lord has confirmed that we will spend another 125 years, and all of us will be there. Thank you very much, and enjoy yourself.
More than I can bear, when we are apart, oh, it hurts my heart, saying, so fly, fly away. I'll sing and hope and pray. This love's melody will bring you back to me. So fly, fly away. I'll sing and hope and pray. This love's melody will bring you back to me.
Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibaju, SN GCON, who is gracing this occasion. Sir, we welcome you. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise once again for our national anthem. And could I ask you on this occasion to sing it? Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's following. With love and strength and faith, Thank you. Mention of the fact that our regulator is present with us today. It's not often that we can get him to be amongst us, although his interaction with the banking industry is one that takes place every day. We cannot let an occasion like this, on the 125th anniversary of a Nigerian bank, go by without asking the governor of the central bank to say a word or two. It's my great pleasure to invite Mr. Godwin Emefiele, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, to come and say a few words. Sir.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibaju, GCON, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Hajia Zainab Ahmed, our Royal Majesties here present, and I speak about the Emir of Kano, and a former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Emir Alhaji Muhammad Sanusi, and the Olubadan of Ibadan. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you this evening on the occasion of the 125th anniversary of the foremost banking institution in Nigeria, the First Bank of Nigeria. I am particularly delighted at the opportunity to address the gathering of eminent personalities, captains of industry, and critical stakeholders in our nation's financial sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to especially thank the leadership of the First Bank of Nigeria, particularly the chairperson, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika. Well, I think we should start with the chairman of the holding company himself, Oba Otudepo, and his wife, the chairperson, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, the managing director and chief executive, Dr. Shola Kazim Adegunto, FCA, for inviting me to speak on this occasion of the commemoration of the 125th anniversary of this bank. But I think it's also fitting that I should thank and welcome some of the past chairmen. I see Alhaji Mutalab. I see some of the past directors here present. I welcome all of you. I must commend the bank on the attainment of this significant milestone, as it goes to show First Bank's resilience and ability to adapt to changing economic and political environment in Nigeria. The bank has been at the forefront of delivering credible financial services to its customers and supporting the building of a safe and sound financial system in Nigeria. I'll urge the management of the bank to continue to build on this laudable stride by continuing to create better financial intermediation tools that will support the growth objectives of our customers and by extension the growth of our Nigerian economy. In my remarks today, I hope to speak, and I've indeed been asked to speak, on the future of the banking sector in Nigeria, and are some of the critical factors that will shape the growth of this industry, such as innovation, inclusion, and identity. The key focus for the Central Bank of Nigeria is the continued development of our financial system, such that it will help in unlocking potential growth, foster a more inclusive financial system, and drive productivity of key sectors of the Nigerian economy, such as agriculture and manufacturing. In addition, emphasis will also be placed on mitigating any threats to the stability of the financial system. Before I delve into the future of banking in Nigeria, I believe it's important to speak briefly on the current state of the banking industry. As you are all aware, following the decline in the crude oil prices in 2016, the banking sector bore a brunt of the crisis, given its exposure to the oil and gas sector, as credit to the oil and gas sector represents close to about 30% of total credit to the private sector in Nigeria. This led to a slight deterioration in the capital of several banks and a decline in earnings indicators. The central bank, in response to this challenge, focused on improving the quality of banking assets through proper risk-based supervision, reducing non-performing loans ratio, as well as ensuring that banks continue to contribute effectively to the real sector of our economy. The impacts of these measures were evident in 2018, with improvements in the assets, deposits, and profitability of Nigerian banks. The rate of NPL formation has slowed substantially, and the higher oil price has helped in restructuring difficult upstream oil and gas loans. We have also seen a significant improvement in the return on equity for the Nigerian banking industry, which indeed I would say has risen from about 12% in December of 2016 to as high as 26% in December 2018. Notwithstanding this improvement, I dare say more work needs to be done to ensure that the majority of Nigerian banks are able to provide banking services, particularly to individuals and rural communities. In addition, a more inclusive banking system that supports the growth of different sectors of our economy, such as agriculture, manufacturing, the SMEs, is vital to the growth of the banking sector and for the future development of our country. On the future of the banking sector, I'd like to refer to the answer provided by a famous innovator when he was asked on what he thought would change his industry over the next 10 years. And he replied that if he could make a choice, he would rather focus on what would not change in the next 10 years. This response is also helpful in speaking on the future of the banking sector in Nigeria. What are the factors that will not change in the banking sector? A business customer will always want efficient financial institution that will support the growth of his or her business in the provision of loans. Other customers may seek faster and efficient delivery of financial services such as mortgages, other loans like student loans, remittances, as well as a platform to support payment for non-banking services such as tax payments and other ancillary services. Ultimately, the future of banking in Nigeria will dwell on providing faster, safer, and more convenient financial services that meet the needs of current and potential bank customers. As we all know, many aspects of banking business and services are experiencing threats from non-traditional players in the sector. The landscape for the Nigerian financial services industry is changing rapidly. Digital solutions and technology-driven banking, low-cost operating models, and supply chain integration have moved to the top of the business agenda, all in an effort to support the needs of banking customers. Non-traditional players are pursuing various aspects of this development, enabling them to offer in-house banking solutions to their customers. The emergence of unexpected players in financial services all over the world has created what has been called market without boundaries in the industry. Mobile banking applications have been rapidly adopted by the younger population, with partnerships between telcos and banks set to dominate the future of the mobile banking and mobile payment industry all over the world. Online access among consumers has increased due to the rise in mobile penetration and mobile internet connections. And in terms of the country's digital landscape, it means that a large portion of the population that was previously unbanked are now able to access financial services through online platforms and banking technologies. The effect of these channels is evident in the rise in the use of electronic means of payment services and a corresponding decline in the use of traditional means of payments, such as checks. According to the data from our Nigerian Interbank Services, transactions using checks declined from 50% between 2013 and 2018. In 2013, 14 million transactions were conducted by checks, relative to 2018, where the number has certainly gone below 9 million. On the other hand, we have seen a rise in electronic payment channels as transactions using the ATMs rose by over 195% between 2013 and 2018, from 295 million ATM transactions in 2013 to 850 million transactions in 818. In addition, transactions via the point of sale terminals, the POS, have risen from 9 million in 2013 to 286 million in 2018. There has been a surge in the use of mobile applications as transactions via mobile money have risen by over 480% between 2013 and 2018. Over 15 million transactions were conducted through mobile money in 2013 relative to over 90 million transactions in 2018. The data shows an increasing trend towards the use of mobile applications to conduct financial transactions, and we expect to see a continued rise in mobile payments into the future relative to other methods of electronic payments. Certainly, that tells us some of the things that we will see in the future of banking services all over the world. In the area of financial inclusion, in order to fully capture the gains of technological advancement in providing financial services, efforts that foster greater inclusion of Nigerians in the financial system are imperative. Currently, according to a recent study conducted by McKinsey, retail penetration of banking services in Nigeria stands at 35% of our GDP relative to other countries such as Morocco and South Africa, where penetration stands at almost 100% of their GDP. The central bank is also cognizant of the fact that as at today, 64% of eligible Nigerians have access to banking facilities. But I must say that this is a remarkable improvement from below 47% just about a year and a half ago. In order to achieve our objective of making sure that 80% of eligible Nigerians have access to financial services by year 2020, we are supporting the establishment of agent networks through the shared agent network facility in partnership with the mobile money operators and banks. This facility will support the deployment of trained agents to underserved parts of the country. These agents will leverage mobile technology in providing limited financial services to individuals in our rural communities. In addition, we have also enacted the payment bank guidelines, which would enable non-finance entities such as fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, fintechs, and mobile network operators to provide limited banking services in underserved parts of the country. Individuals in those areas where these payment banks operate will be able to open accounts as well as being able to transfer and receive funds. These measures are designed to foster inclusion by reducing the high cost of banking services in rural communities and to also enable banks to provide better intermediation tools in supporting the needs of their customers. Ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that sometime in, I think about 2011, my predecessor, the Emir, introduced the cashless banking. Unfortunately, because we were not very certain about the rate of financial inclusion and penetration all over the country, we had to tarry a while because we thought that we wanted to be sure that the rate of financial inclusion in Nigeria has effectively penetrated all the nooks and crannies in Nigeria for us to be able to say, yes, it is time to really proceed on cashless banking. But I want to seize the opportunity to say that very soon, with all the things, all the structures that have been put in place to improve banking services in Nigeria, with all that has been done to improve banking penetration in Nigeria, through technology and collaboration with our technology companies, I want to assure all of us that very soon we will go back to cashless banking. The Central Bank of Nigeria believes that collaborative efforts by non-finance entities and banks will be critical in building a robust financial system that has a wider reach and also enable better integration across different payment gateways in a reliable, secure, and convenient manner. One key area that will affect the future of growth of banking system is ensuring majority of Nigerians have verifiable means of identification, such as biometric verification number or national identity. Working with financial institutions in Nigeria, we also introduced the unique biometric verification number, the BVN, in 2014 for all holders of bank accounts in Nigeria. The CBN has put in place necessary measures to designate fintechs that have significant impact in the payment system as other financial institutions in order to bring such fintechs under its regulatory and supervisory purview. We have adopted a risk-based supervisory framework for payment system and payment service providers. The risk-based approach ensures proper designation of payment systems in the country based on systemic importance and ensure that accessing such payment systems at primary and secondary levels are premised on clear access criteria. Notwithstanding concerns on the rise of fintechs and the use of cryptocurrencies, current usage stands at less than 1% of total assets base of banking industry. It is indeed safe to say that banks will continue to remain important players in the financial system in the future, as the critical role of warehousing funds and the provision of loans will still require the use of banks. In concluding, let me say that rapidly changing technology is providing a historic opportunity to transform our daily lives, from the way payments are made to shaping the customer's ability to access credit from financial institutions. At the Central Bank, we have implemented several measures that we think will help to support growth of the banking system in the future. This will be achieved by improving financial inclusion rates, supporting innovation, and ensuring underserved Nigerians are able to obtain verifiable identification numbers while addressing safety concerns. These measures will also ensure that we have a faster, safer, and convenient system for eligible banking customers, and we believe that if achieved, we can be sure that the growth of the Nigerian banking industry will be formidable, supported by banks and fintechs that meet the evolving needs of the majority of Nigerians. I thank you all, and my most sincere apologies that I have to make this speech because I was told to make a speech rather than just a brief comment. And I hope you try and indulge me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your Excellency. Excellency, the President of Ghana, Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We promised you an evening of entertainment. We promised you dinner. The entertainment comes first and dinner rapidly thereafter. Bonale Austin Peters Productions is foremost in this country for their command of the theatre. They have been doing Nigeria proud, not just in country, but abroad as well. They have created something special for today, and it's called FirstBank, the musical. Thank you.
We never rest, we push you first. First, not the first. We are the best. We never rest, we push you first. What are you guys doing? What kind of us? What? Listen, come. We are getting ready to celebrate the 125th anniversary of FirstBank. We can't do it like this. We can't. We have to switch it up. Really? Yes, switch it up.
Balance worksheet. How many accounts have you opened today? Huh? Can you imagine? No, what do you want to get?
Welcome.
What is going on here?
We were just getting ready to celebrate the 125th anniversary of FirstBank. Right?
What better way to celebrate? What better way to celebrate but to sing and dance, Mr.
Oh,
Let's stop it. a bank, not a circus. Huh? Yes. That's the idea, Miss Shadi. The bank was boring and we thought, what better way to celebrate the bicentennial than music and dance? Let the customers, the staff. Did you just hear yourself speak? Eh, Tosin? Did you hear yourself speak? Yes, Miss Shadi. Who is behind this concept? Who is behind this concept? Oh, you all are mutes now, eh? Now listen to me. The idea was to show how far the FirstBank has come and to celebrate the heroes on whose shoulders this bank has moved to this height.
Yes.
Not
Miss
this.
Ali, that's why we thought it would be creative.
Creative! Music in the bank. What shallow concept. Now listen to me. Do you really want to know what music in the bank is? Huh? I'll tell you. Real music in the bank is remaining true to our name by providing the best customer service possible. Real music in the bank is to be the partner of first choice by building the future of our customers.
Yes.
That is what we are trying to do. Oh no, darling, you were putting up a circus. We don't have the luxury of time. We cannot afford to laugh away our time when there are accounts to be opened and new business adventures to explore.
Yes.
Yes. We are the elephants. Yes. And no, they don't call us the elephants for nothing. We are strong. We are all of us. The operations unit.
Yes.
The retail unit.
Oh, yes.
All hands must be on deck.
But we all do. But you know that is not possible. Huh?
I am sure it was your idea that pissed her off.
It is not my idea.
I told you she was not going to like it.
But what is wrong in trying to make people happy now?
Happy? Miss Shade is a sadist. Sadists don't like people to be happy.
No. Please, don't talk about Miss Shade like that. I don't like it.
Look, Ayo, that woman has no heart. Where her heart is supposed to be, there is a big black hole.
No, you don't know her.
And you know her.
You see, behind all that hardness, it is a beautiful butterfly.
What are what?
It's a beautiful. Well, what is it now?
Wait. Ayo,
What is it?
are you falling for Miss Shade?
Of course not. I said no, I'm not.
You like Miss Shade?
Okay, just a bit. See that girl, oh, they look to my side. She like say nobody. Messiah. Jesus, fire. So they leave behind time. Back on the second, get baptized. Well, I don't get to smile. I don't get to smile.
The workload is just too much. Every day, this target, that target.
Calm down.
I'm tired.
I think she's still upset about our first performance. Yes, I think she's still upset. How about let's try something different. No, listen, let all the units come out. Let them showcase their hidden talent.
I don't want to lose my
Hey,
I'm the first one.
Come. Listen to me. It's not just about getting new bank account and satisfying our shareholders. No. It goes beyond that. It is about the relationships. It is about the people. That is why people come to this bank every day. That's why I came to work here. And if we lose that reason, then we have lost the sole purpose of FirstBank. So, I propose, let there be music in the bank. Music!
I'm sorry today, someone's over today. Is there something wrong there today?
I'm quiet today. Someone's calling today. I have all witness today.
Open the windows, open your heart. There is sunlight coming. Listen carefully and you will hear music in the band.
Music in the band.
The band.
Music in the band. Melody will say hello and thank you. When it comes to singing the excellence, how do you do? Music in the band.
The band.
Yes, Ayo.
Did you ever imagine that the bank had such talent?
That was absolutely marvelous.
My goodness. What? Chief,
How are you?
I am great, Chief. It is an honor to have you. This is my colleague. Chike.
How are you?
Chike, Chief Herbert Pierce here is the first beneficiary of the private banking sector. He is a shipping magnate.
Well, thank you. You see, FirstBank's private banking program gave me the opportunity to start my shipping line.
I told you. It is not just about the bank growing. No. It is also about our shareholders and our customers growing fast as well. And that is the secret of FirstBank.
Absolutely.
You first.
Absolutely.
It is actually a great coincidence that you walked in at this very moment.
Oh, what's going on? I noticed activity going on.
Tell you, we were just showcasing our talents.
It's amazing that you should mention talent. I'm a professional tenor. Yeah.
Yes.
Darling, what do you think? Should we give them something?
Yes, we should.
Let's give them some majestoso chain.
That voice which calls to me and speaks my name, and do I dream again? For now I find the words coming from
Sing once again with me a strange duet. First man has made the fool we are today. And for we dream again till always
What a wonderful way to represent the private banking sector. Let us now see what the microfinance unit has in store for us. Welcome, welcome.
I am Mrs. Mercy again. I am a simple trader and a housewife like my fellow traders. I am grateful to FirstBank because they gave me the opportunity to become the biggest distributor of Star Air. I am also the first woman to ever sit on a managerial board.
Miss Shade.
Mr. Gala, please sit down.
Thank you, thank you.
So,
Yes.
Mr. Akiola,
Yes.
I have gone through your proposal and this is a high-risk investment. I'm afraid we can't cling to it.
Miss Shade, see, I know.
Okay.
I know it's high risk.
Okay.
But I like to take risk. And I believe so does my bank. Yeah.
Well, yes, but not with our eyes closed and 2 feet forward. That is suicide.
Miss Shade, you see, this business represents a break for my business. I urge you to please consider.
If I didn't consider it, I wouldn't have said what I just said. But here is what we can do. You can get a collateral. A land in Lekki or Maitama, maybe. Then we can...
But if I would have found that kind of property, I wouldn't be asking my bank for an LPO.
Oh. Then I'm afraid there is nothing we can do right now.
But this is frustrating. After all the years of banking with you? Or is it this FirstBank?
Yes, this is FirstBank. And look, we're here for you. But, look, Mr. Akiola, I have to put our company first. You know, this bank...
This is just, I mean, why do you now say FirstBank the first? We are the best. We never rest. We go to rest. FirstBank the first. We are the best. We never rest. We go to rest. You first. That's where it begins. The start of something beautiful. You first. That's where it begins. The start of something. Why did you say that first?
Well, I know that song, but
why am I listening now?
in this situation,
No.
Mr. Akiola.
Say it! Miss Shade, say it! Say it! Please! Please! Miss Shade.
Yes?
Mr. Akiola is one of our biggest customers.
I know that.
He's not just a customer. He has a long history with this bank from his great-grandfather to his grandfather to his father. They all worked together with this bank.
I can see you're not only a performer, you're a historian too.
Madam Shade, the commercial cultivation of rubber would have started if our then general manager, Mr. George William Neville, if he didn't take the leap of faith. He gave loans to this effect, and thanks to that, the rubber trade was born.
I know. The business environment was naive then. Look at this. Look. The old FirstBank, the elephant was walking with its head down. But now, the elephant's head is raised now. It's no longer walking with its head down. Open your eyes. Things have changed, Ayo.
It signifies the bank's commitment and promise to its customers that they will be put first and they will support their customers.
Wrong. It signifies that the elephant can now see ahead of itself without falling into it.
Mrs. Shade, the elephant's legs are raised too. It shows that the bank is committed to put the right foot forward for every single customer of the bank.
I have been working at this bank way longer.
Oh, yes, I know.
Why are we having this conversation?
I was just
You're just trying to do what? Have you met your target? Have you met your target? No. But you have time to reel out history and put up a circus.
I'm not putting up a
Do you understand what is at stake here?
I fully understand.
No, you don't understand. You're not listening to me.
I'm listening. I just want you to see.
No, you are not listening.
Shade,
now,
this is what I
listen. once again. The image of FirstBank is not a joke. You're listening to the voice of reason, a picture that I see serves free. Oh, you must see how proud this free. Make my heart dare to achieve. Won't be left out, all 'cause you won't listen. We're always ahead and focused. We are much more once with the light. Like nothing begun. So if you wanna come along, you'll get to meet your target. Work and work, that's all I have. And leave all the January every dawn. And the elephant in you will
Mr. Dave, what? We will surprise you. We will surprise you. From the inception of this banking up till now, that we have over 170 branches all over. From our founding general manager, Mr. Samuel Asabia, up till now, our aim has always been to thrill our customers. I told you. Well done, well done. Well done.
You're so talented.
Okay, leave my stage.
Wow. Look at you. Oh, it's you. Ayo.
Hello.
Why didn't you tell me?
I was trying to tell you.
Wow. Ayo. I owe you an apology.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
You know, I used to think that successful banking was about growing a financial deposit so high you can touch the skies, but no. Successful banking is truly about the people. From the manager at the top to the security at the door,
yes.
The customers, the shareholders, everyone is important.
Yeah.
FirstBank, the people first.
Yes, the people.
You first.
Yes.
And I learned that because of you, Ayo. Thank you. So, I would like to participate.
Look, this is just for staff members who want to showcase the talent.
Oh, so you don't think I have talent?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just, okay. But I will have to help you.
Help me how?
You know, I am the elephant. Yes, I am strong. I'm strong enough to carry you. Sorry. I'm sorry. And I am also gentle enough to walk with you. I was just wondering, how about we reconcile the balance sheets?
Maybe we should work on the spreadsheet.
You know I am hard Yes. It's just the way you do your things. I don't know how to explain it. Look, back again.
Hope says it's how we go to watch it. Hope your love is sweet past sweet talk. Baby girl, I say your body not feel out. I feel to dance on the body, only on your body. That girl for the corner, tell somebody they call her. The way she do right now, I see fire for her body. And if she follow me go, now I enjoy them go feel out. Baby girl, you man, love you where you want.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just made my target.
But of course, we do have to serve you dinner, and dinner is served now. I think we dropped the plates as well. As your dinner is coming to your table, but before it does, you please give a big round of applause to Morale Ostapika's production. FirstBank the musical was created specially for tonight, and those young people certainly display the energy that FirstBank has. It's the most youthful, innovative, energetic 125-year-old that there is and that you'll ever meet. Elect of Ogun State, Chief Abiodun. Welcome, sir. We have the vintage band to entertain you through dinner. And we do have another spectacular piece of entertainment all the way from Ukraine shortly after dinner. We also have, and it's a great pleasure, I'm sure you will want to listen to the Emir of Kano when he makes his address to us this evening.
Go
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break up a good party, but we hope you are enjoying your dinner. But we'd like you to please settle down once again. Take your seats. Because as you all know, FirstBank is not just in Nigeria, not just on the African continent. The tentacles of FirstBank stretch out into the world, and it's our fervent belief that it will grow even more over the years. So we do have something international for you tonight. A troupe from the Ukraine called Verba Shadow Theatre. Their show is called Saving the Planet. They go all over the world, and we in fact had to bring them in just after they completed a trip to the United States with just 48 hours rest. So I'd like you to train your eyes, and I must tell you that the theater is to my right, in that corner, the big black square you can see. And if you can't quite manage to get a sense of it, it'll be on the screens as well. Please put your hands together for Verba Shadow Theatre from the Ukraine, Saving the Planet.
What about
The Verba Shadow Theatre from the Ukraine, saving the planet, and as you can see, there are individuals out there. Thank you for a wonderful performance. Your Excellency, President of Ghana, Your Excellency, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, represented this evening by Mrs. Gala Ahmed, the Minister of Finance. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, FirstBank, 125 years, but situated within Nigeria and intertwined with its heritage. Perhaps it's only appropriate then that we have someone to speak to us who has a little bit of all those elements in his life story. His Royal Highness Mohammed Sanusi II, Commander of the Order of the Niger, is the 14th Emir of Kano, but he was a banker, a former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, so corporate life, and also serving the nation through public service. He is from a noble Fulani family, but he's also a respected Islamic scholar. His connection with the bank now links the bank to our cultural heritage. It's wonderful for FirstBank that we have him here tonight to speak to us. Would I ask you please to welcome His Highness the Seriking Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, the Honorable Minister of Budget from Ghana, Honorable Finance Minister, Your Majesty the Olubadong and other traditional rulers, I've seen so many dignitaries, so many friends, Alhaji Mutallab, my chairman, a few of my colleagues from FirstBank, the Governor General, the Governor of Central Bank was here, he's left, the Chairman Oba Otudeko. So permit me to stand on already established protocol. It's a great honor for me to stand here today as FirstBank celebrates 125 years. Someone this morning mentioned, someone mentioned that FirstBank, I think it was Uche Oji, that FirstBank ought to have a royal charter. I do not want to be presumptuous, but in September this year, we have the bicentennial 200 years of my family ruling Kano. So I may be uniquely qualified to confer that charter on FirstBank. You know, going back, and I saw Ola Oyelola, I saw Alex Oti, we joined the board of FirstBank together. And when I saw them, I just realized how far we've come. And just actually about 2 decades that made me realize how long it's been. This morning we were sitting in the hall watching this brilliant conversation on stage with the finance minister, and Zainab was speaking, and about 2 decades said, oh, she's so brilliant. And I said, you know, she was my classmate in the university. And typical of KBC, he said, is she that old? I was, to be honest, a bit upset that I can be a little bit vain, and I thought for me to be called old was not. But then I realized it was maybe more of a compliment to say that who looks 10 years younger than me, and I promised her that next time I will say she was 5 years my junior in university. So I don't give away her age. But it's interesting because it says something about, for me, the first experience of joining FirstBank. There was a documentary, I didn't think to show, but I did say a few things in that documentary. And maybe going through, and by the way, I'm choosing this path of going through my personal experience, anecdotes of FirstBank, because I want to avoid my new post-election resolution is to avoid every controversy. So economics, politics, VP, I promise. I'll keep away from controversy. But there are a few things that people experience about institutions in coming into contact with institutions and in working in those institutions as customers or as shareholders or as staff that tell you a lot about what makes that institution tick. Now, I don't know how all that will fit into theoretical analysis of institutions and institution building, but some of those anecdotes and some of those stories are important when we try to understand why FirstBank came over 25 years. And perhaps the first point for me is to tell you the story about how I became an executive director in FirstBank. I had, I think, a few months or years prior to being appointed Met about Tobacco. I was then in UBA, head of risk management, and I had thought of crossing over to FirstBank as a DGM, and we had a conversation. And that was all. In 2005, a merger had just taken place between UBA, where I was head of risk, and STB, so and new management came in. And at that time, I had been wanting to go for a PhD. I had this interesting idea for a PhD, which I had approved at the University of Bayreuth in Germany to go and write, which I hope I will still write. The title, by the way, is Sharia and the Construction of the Woman in Northern Nigeria. So I was about to go, and I was working on some funding from the Heinrich Böll Foundation. And on the day of the extraordinary AGM to formalize the merger of UBA and STB, we were at a big party, there was a lot of noise, my phone was on silent. I took out my phone and realized that I had about 10 missed calls from Omobola Johnson, who was then in Accenture. So I thought there must be a problem for her to call me 10 times. And I went out and called her. And she said, Lamido, I'm going to send you a number now. Please call Dr. Suleiman, he's in South Africa, who was then the managing partner of Accenture. So I didn't know why. I called Dr. And Dr. said, Lamido, is it true you're leaving UBA? I said, yes. And you're going for a PhD? Yes. Is that a firm decision? Yes. So, if you were offered a job somewhere, would you delay your PhD? So I don't know, it depends on what the job is. If you were offered ED in another bank, said it depends on what the bank is. Because, I mean, leaving UBA to be an ED in a small bank was not really something you would want to do. So he said, look, I'm not at liberty to tell you what bank it is. And I said, then I cannot answer you because I don't know. So okay, let me tell you this in confidence. If you were offered ED in FirstBank, would you delay your PhD? I said, Doctor, if you offered me ED in FirstBank, I would abandon the PhD. Now, you know, these are the great stories about Nigeria. I mean, I had the same experience when I was appointed governor of Central Bank, but these are the great stories that we tend to think that this is a country where you have to hustle and lobby and, you know, go and beg and bribe your... To think that you would just be sitting and an institution just picks up the phone, calls you and offers you ED. And basically, we're very clear, what we want is for you to come and do in risk management what you've done in UBA risk management. And for me, far more important than working in the bank, that attitude, that approach, the idea that the bank goes out to look for what they want, and you didn't have to go and lobby anyone, was, as a Nigerian, it was something I felt proud of, it was something that was refreshing, and it says something about the institution. And maybe this is one of the secrets of living for 125 years. Now we joined the bank at the time when the bank was going through a new phase of change, trying to rejuvenate itself, have a more youthful top management. And again, the bank did not clear out the entire exco. My MD CEO, Jacobs Adekibe, and Mr. John Abel were there before us, but they brought in 5 young Turks. I think in the bank then we were called eaglets because most of the senior management was much older than us. Alex Oti, whom I've seen, Ola Oyelola, whom I've seen. I have not seen Remy Babalola and Bola Adeshola. And we came in together into that team. We used to joke because we had a motto called dependably dynamic. And in Exco we said Jacobs, Adekibe, and John Abel were the dependable half, and we were the dynamic half. But it was something that spoke to a sense of balance, keeping true to an old tradition while accommodating change. And so even in the composition of the Exco and the manner in which that transition was held, it's like, yes, we're bringing you guys to come and move this bank forward, please don't go. We need some I mean, people like Alex Oti was a reckless driver. He needed, they needed people like me in risk management to hold them back, you know. But even I needed JMA and John Abel sometimes to say, calm down, you know, we're going too fast. But it was great to work in an institution like that. The second thing about the culture of FirstBank was that it was a true family. And when I say family, I mean family not just in the sense that while you are there. Even after leaving FirstBank, I have continued to feel I'm part of that family. And you'd have to sit in the board meetings and the EXCO meetings to understand that, the hot debates that would happen. And for me personally, sitting on the board of FirstBank trained me and prepared me for other leadership roles. In the years I sat on the board of FirstBank, the board did not vote once. It did not vote once on an issue. And when I was in the central bank, in the years of central bank, the board did not vote once. If one member of the board objected, that proposal was not approved. And the logic was, if we sitting in this room cannot convince ourselves, how do we convince others? And I don't know how many institutions work on that basis. But I found later in life that when I got to the central bank and when I applied that, it was the safest and healthiest way to work, because that one person might be a minority, the minority might be the correct idea. And it built confidence, it allowed everybody to own decisions, be responsible, and take responsibility. We made mistakes. Even with that, we made mistakes. But if you continue operating on that basis, rather than have one voice dominate and take a decision, or start taking decisions by majority and ignoring contrary arguments, you are less likely to make serious mistakes. I believe this is one of the secrets of this organization living to be 125 years. The third thing was investment in people, and not just any kind of investment, but targeted investment. I remember when we wanted to move our Bar 2 program to the next level, Mr. Ajekibe kindly sent me on 2 occasions to the University of Essex, the summer school, to go again to study linear regression, probability theory, quantitative techniques. Because there was no way with Bar 2 you were going into risk management without, I mean, imagine going back at that age, for refresher courses in mathematics, and I was an executive director of the bank. But that was what I needed to understand the models, and that was what the bank spent money on. And just that idea of developing people so that they're able to perform their role more effectively and more efficiently is one of the secrets of the bank. And again, I think this is the third element in this longevity for the bank. On a personal note, I would say there is, I don't know how many of you realize that there is a certain connection between the name Sanusi and FirstBank. One of my predecessors as CEO of the bank, Joseph Sanusi, went on to become governor of Central Bank. And then me. But what people don't know is that Jacobs Ajekibe, his grandfather's name was Sanusi. So I would like to recommend to any Sanusi who is in senior management in FirstBank to remain there. By virtue of that name and that connection, there's a very strong probability of that name and that connection. There's a very strong probability that you will be a CEO. And given that Joseph Sanusi and myself went on to Central Bank, you might even succeed where GMA stopped and go on to be governor of Central Bank. Okay, so I would just like to round up by saying a few things, and this is not about FirstBank. I think it's for us sitting in here who are dealing with finance, who are dealing with numbers, whether in central bank or in commercial banking. One last point, of course, is the preparation that FirstBank gave me for the CBN. And I said in the documentary, I don't think I would have been governor of Central Bank if we did not have a financial crisis. I don't think I would have been CEO of FirstBank if we didn't have a financial crisis, because bank CEOs, the large banks, are always taken from market-facing units of operations. We had a global financial crisis, the banking system was at risk. The bank said the chief risk officer should run the bank. And I still believe that was what featured the training in UBA and FirstBank was what featured heavily in the mind of the federal government during the financial crisis to take me to the CBN. It was, of course, a wrong time because I had just become MD of FirstBank. We were trying to do big mergers, we had big plans. And when I was invited to the central bank, my first thought was, why of all times do you get appointed governor when you have a crisis? If the system collapses in your hand, you're the shortest serving governor of the central bank and a complete failure. But thanks again to the support of all the banks. I would like to thank all the bank MDs who worked with us in the central bank, and the cooperation and collaboration we were able to go through that period. So the point I was going to make is something that in my new role has suddenly struck me about the need for all of us to transition from a simple numbers mindset to a people mindset. I always tell the story that when I was in the central bank, I dealt with numbers. You talk about what is the percentage of Nigerians living in poverty? What's the number of Nigerians who are poor? What is the rate of growth of GDP? What's the rate of growth? What's the rate of inflation? And we measured our success with all those numbers. But I wonder how many people in this room really understand what poverty means. I know that I had a sense of what was before, but I did not face poverty and understand poverty until I became the Emir of Kano. When you say someone lives on less, and I'll tell you just one story. A few months after I became Emir, and if you go to my port, we have this process of the Emir comes, sits down after the homage. You have reports from different parts of the Emirates. And then people come with all sorts of petitions from wives and their husbands, neighbors, issues to do with farmland, people wanting support for education and health. And on this particular day, as petitioners were coming in, I heard a very loud scream. And I sent someone to find out. And when they went, it was a woman whose child had died while she was waiting for her turn to ask the Emir for financial support to buy drugs. And these drugs were worth less than $5. Less than $5 US. Her child died. That was for me the first real contact with what it means to live on less than $1 a day or less than $2 a day. That your baby can die because you do not have $5 to buy drugs. Now think how many babies die every day. That we don't know. They die because we don't have health care. They die because they cannot afford to have health care. And I began to ask myself, all these years, all these numbers, return on assets, return on equity, deposit liabilities, rate of inflation, GDP growth, what do they mean? I'm not saying they're not important, but what are we measuring? The wealth of shareholders? The wealth of companies? What are we really measuring the important things? Kano is the state with the largest population in Nigeria. As of 2017, 58% of all children living under the age of 5 in that state have chronic malnutrition. 58%. 48% of all women of reproductive age are anemic from iron deficiency. 17% of the children have acute malnutrition. Globally, 9% is a crisis. We had 17% in 2017. And then you begin to have some of the highest infant mortality rates in the world, the highest maternal mortality rates in the world, and we treat it as a medical problem and not a nutrition problem and a poverty problem. Now we can talk about the crisis, we can talk about fiscal issues, but we also have to talk about some of the choices that we have made. And it's important now that elections are over, even though I do not want to get into controversy, but it's important that we think about those choices that we have made. Do we as Nigerians really want to continue spending 1.5 trillion naira so that we can have cheap petrol, rather than put that money into the lives of these children? You know, when we talk about fuel subsidy, we're not talking about wanting expensive petrol. We think about the choices that we have made. Where are our priorities? What is important? Is it the rate of growth of GDP? Or reducing the number of children who die from hunger, who die from disease, who die from avoidable death? From disease, who die from avoidable death. Is it GDP growth? Is it return on equity? Or is it reducing the number? Is it GDP growth? Is it return on equity? Or is it reducing the number of our daughters who die in childbirth? You know, all of us here, we live in an insulated world. Our friends, our colleagues, we don't see their children dying from hunger. We don't see that. We don't see stunting. We don't see their children begging on the streets. We keep talking about child beggars. I keep hearing all over the country about all these Almajiris, child beggars. Did they produce themselves? Did they make themselves poor, or did we impoverish them? Is poverty a curse, or is it a creation of our society? What I would like us as First Bankers and as Nigerians to do in these 125 years is to begin to think more and more about how those people that are silent in our conversation. We just had a conversation, we just had a debate, presidential debate, governorship debate. I listened to all the election debates. Nobody was talking about girl-child education. Nobody was talking about nutrition. They were not issues. They have been marginalized. They are part of a subaltern discourses because those millions of people are not important. When I became governor of Central Bank, I said banks do not fail. See, the bank failed. You close the bank, people lose their deposits. I said, no, banks don't fail, they're killed. You know, it's like seeing somebody whose throat is slit on the road and you say the man died. He did not die, he was murdered. And we have come before then from a history where people would do whatever they wanted with banks, then CBN and NDIC would close down the bank, and that was it. And nobody ever followed up to find out how many civil servants had spent 30 years of their life saving money for retirement and that money got lost in the failed bank. And their children fell out of school because of the failed bank, and their wife died because they could not pay hospital bills because their money was caught up in a failed bank. The whole idea of a failed bank is ideologically designed to protect those who destroy the banking system. And I said, no, yes, we have shareholders. Mr. Wosu is here, they fought us. So yes, we have shareholders, yes, we have management. But at the end of the day, the money in the bank belongs to the depositor. It's that poor woman in Makurdi who has been taught not to keep her money under the pillow and put it in a bank, who has dutifully brought her money into a saving. It's that woman that you do not see, that has no access to the villa, who cannot see the president. She is the most important person in the bank, not the multi-billionaire shareholder. So until we begin to start, and I'm glad while I'm talking economics, the vice president is a pastor. I'm sure we can find enough verses in the Bible to support this. Until we start to say that the most important Nigerian is the Nigerian at the bottom of the pyramid. And begin to rebuild our entire system, from our financial system, with a focus on inclusion and gender, to our fiscal policy. You tell me high oil price will inflict pain on the poor. You're telling me that it's better for the poor to have cheap fuel than to have education for their children? Educate the children, they will build the refineries. They will earn enough to buy expensive fuel. Educate the girls. In the north, we have a problem, population explosion. People marry more wives than they can maintain, produce children they cannot maintain. We have a fertility rate of 8, one of the highest in the world. But if you don't have a job, if you don't have an education, what if you just make babies? Educate the girl, and she has a job. She's not going to have a baby every year. She'll space her children. She will educate them. If we were to do just one thing with these new elections, if we look at that Universal Basic Education Act, if we were to expand it and say we want free, qualitative, compulsory education for all girls up to senior secondary school, and if we were to truly take this not as a slogan, but as a genuine target. And do the calculations. How many girls do we have? How much would it cost to educate them? How many teachers do we need? Instead of going to borrow billions of dollars to build deep sea ports and build flashy airports and bridges and overheads and underpasses, let's go to the World Bank and the African Bank and borrow billions of dollars and invest in educating these girls, and let us see the results in the next 20 years. We build highways, beautiful roads in the north. You go to northern cities, beautiful roads. There are more pedestrians on those roads than cars, and the pedestrians are begging. You don't need a highway to beg. You don't need it. We build the roads for our nice, flashy cars. We don't want to go into potholes. We call it development. Development for who? For us. We want to drive smoothly. We don't want to pay the mechanic. And we don't care that the vast majority of our compatriots don't have the cars, don't ride in cars, and are not likely to own cars because we have not educated them. The money that went into those roads should have gone into educating them. So my message as a first banker, an ex-first banker, and now as someone who has come face to face with what those numbers really mean. I've looked into the eyes of poverty, I have seen the despair. I've seen the hopelessness, I've seen the anger, and I've seen the consequences. Drug addiction, political thuggery, kidnapping, religious extremism. My own mosque was bombed. I was a target. I was just lucky. I was out of the country. I was a target. But on that day, in one day, 200 people were killed in prayer. I buried charred corpses. And it's not religion. It is poverty and marginalization and the refusal of those of us in this room to realize that Nigeria is bigger than all of us and that the people that are important in this country are not the people in this room, but people who can never enter this room. So, Your Excellency, before I start getting controversial, I would like to thank everybody who's come to share this evening with us in FirstBank. I hope I've not spoiled your dinner. We had a feast. You know, Walale, Austin Peters, this is one of the greatest shows I have seen. The French ambassador is here. You see why I like my job? I never had this before. The vice president stands up and he has to fix his stuff for himself. You know, the French ambassador is here. I'm sure you'll agree with me that what we saw today is every bit as good, if not better, than Bonheur at the Moulin Rouge. And just that presentation and the initiative and the ingenuity and the manner in which it was put together makes me, as a Nigerian, have hope. I never lose hope in our country. I will try never to stop speaking. And my prayer is that with this election, that the government will not think of the next 4 years at 2023, which some people have started talking about. That the government will think of Nigeria 125 years from now. Thank you.
Second, the Emir of Kano for that wonderful and thought-provoking speech. I'm sure everyone here will testify that it was non-controversial and representative of his new 2019 resolution. However, sir, on behalf of FirstBank, may I say that we are waiting for our royal charter, and the sooner we can get it, the happier we will be. Thank you for offering. Your Excellencies, I have a mandate that we should conclude this evening in the next 30 minutes. For obvious reasons. We've kept you here a long time, and we'd like to keep you no longer than that. We have two good messages to follow now. One from His Excellency, Dr. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Republic of Ghana, to be delivered by his representative here tonight, Professor George Yang Afor, Minister of Planning of the Republic of Ghana. And that will be followed, of course, by a goodwill message from the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So may I invite Professor George Yang Afor to please come and deliver the message from the President of Ghana. And I also thank him for being with us all morning and now all evening. And we look forward to seeing him again when he leaves for Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Moderator. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Royal Highness, the Emir of Kano, and other traditional leaders here present, the Honorable Senators and members of the House of Representatives, Excellencies, the governors from the various states who are here, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Chairman and Executives of FirstBank of Nigeria, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As you've been told, I'm standing here for the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa, who could not make it here because of some other agents' event. So I stand here, and this is my master's words. And I quote, I send you warm greetings from the people and government of the Republic of Ghana on the occasion of the celebration of the 125th anniversary of the establishment of the FirstBank of Nigeria. The invitation is an honor done to the people of Ghana than to my modest person, even though it is highly appreciated by me. As many of you may know, it is always a delight to come to Nigeria, a country I describe as my second home in the world. Our two countries are like siblings. We quarrel and disagree occasionally, but we love each other. Indeed, it always comes as a surprise to realize that we do not have a common border. Since independence, our political and development paths have been extraordinarily similar. We share a joint attachment to the received English common law, which forms our legal systems. The latest installment of this similarity can be found in the example of the current leaders of our two countries, where two septuagenarians, that is over 70 years, are at the helm of the affairs of the nation. It is thus unfortunate that prior engagements and commitments in Ghana have meant that I am unable to participate in this important occasion, which will deepen further the ties of cooperation and the bonds of friendship between Ghana and Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I congratulate FirstBank of Nigeria on this extraordinary achievement as the very first banking institution to be established on the African continent, First Bank of Nigeria has been an integral part of Nigeria's economic story since its establishment some 125 years ago. The chronicling of Nigeria's economic history will not be complete without acknowledging the important role played by this bank. I congratulate the bank for staying true to Nigeria all these years in their economic journey, establishing a resilient bank to serve the needs of the Nigerian and African peoples, creating jobs and contributing to the growth and development of the continent's economy. Congratulations as an Ayuko, as we say in Ghana, and I'm confident that the best years of the bank lie ahead. It is important for all of us to recognize that if we are to put Africa onto a path of progress and prosperity, and thereby guarantee our future, the private sector and indeed citizens will have to own the economy and be its main driving force. The role of banks to this end is critical. When banks do not become mere profit-making enterprises, but see themselves as active partners with government to build a healthy and stronger economy, then you will be making significant progress. If the economies of Africa are to thrive and work with African peoples, then it should be relatively straightforward, for example, for anyone who has an innovative and viable idea to be able to access lines of credit and bring that idea into fruition. On this occasion, let us rededicate ourselves to helping create a society of opportunities for all our people and empower them to confront the challenges of this globally competitive world. Let us provide avenues for them to participate in nation building and to contribute in decision making in all sectors of the economy. The history of FirstBank Nigeria tells me that Africa has the capacity to build a modern, developed, progressive continent and free ourselves from a mindset of dependence, aid, charity, and handouts. We can together build a new African civilization where there is fair opportunity for all, where hard work, enterprise, and creativity are rewarded, where there is an abundance of decent jobs with good pay, where there is a dignified retirement for the elderly, and where there is a social safety net for the vulnerable and disadvantaged. And I think we can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, may God bless the First Bank of Nigeria Limited, and may God bless us all. Happy 125th anniversary, and once again, I thank you all for the congratulations.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister for Planning, Republic of Ghana, Professor George Yambafo, delivering the address from the President of Ghana. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's now my very great pleasure to invite His Excellency Professor Yemi Osuajese, DCON, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, address, and immediately after the UKK will give his vote of thanks.
Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highness, Your Royal Highnesses, friends, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very, very, very wonderful evening. And I really want to thank the organizers for very thoughtfully putting together such a splendid evening. From the very delightful Austin Peters troupe to some of the very excellent goodwill messages. And I said to His Royal Highness, after listening to his speech, that these are the confessions of a repentant capitalist. And I'm sure that after hearing him, there must be quite a few of us here in this room who must also go through the penitence that His Royal Highness has displayed. But I thought, being the birthday of the FirstBank, that I should at least also offer some present to someone here who is enjoying this dinner as well as I am. I wanted to ask if there is somebody who might, for a prize, who might know how, or what is the name that is given to the 125th anniversary? What is the name that is given to the 125th anniversary? As for example, you would say Jubilee for 50 years. What is that description for 125? If you know it, just raise your hand. The prize is right here. Raise your hand. You don't need to speak together. I'm a professor. I get used to people carrying on as if they know the answer. So if you know the answer, just raise your hand and tell us what it is. And please, no one Googles up anything. They look right next to you to be sure that nobody is Googling up anything. Is there anyone at all? Yes, the lady, there's a lady right behind. No, there's a lady right there, sitting down and raising her hand. Please just come up, and there's a microphone right here.
Your Excellency, it's Quasi Central. I just changed.
Yes?
Quasi Central.
Sorry?
Quasi Central.
Say that again.
Quasi Central.
Yeah, that is quite correct. Actually, the word is pronounced quasi-sensual. Quasi-sensual. That is the word. So, please come up, please come up. You have there's a present right here. And it's dinner for two at the Metaphor. The Metaphor, by the way, is a very lovely restaurant. Number 78A, Eunice Basharu Street, BIA. A dinner for two. By the way, this gentleman happens to be my in-law, and it's not by arrangement. I mean, I must tell you that. I'm truly. Thank you very much. This is Mr. Ayo Subai, the chairman of the Lagos Inland Revenue Service. Congratulations. So we all know now that the 25th anniversary is called the quasi-essential anniversary. And I think that when we celebrate these kinds of very special anniversaries, there is a sense in which the reflections must be different from the reflections when we celebrate the 30th, 40th, 50th, etc. But let me congratulate the board, management, and staff, past and present of FirstBank, on this marvelous occasion of the 125th anniversary of the bank. Being Nigeria's premier and her largest bank for decades is certainly worthy of celebration. And in the past 1 week or so, there have been a harvest of praise and commendation at home and abroad. I've been reading a few of the tributes to FirstBank, and these days I have a bit of time on my hands after campaigning all over the place and waiting now for the inauguration. So I've been reading a few tributes. But perhaps one of the most intriguing for me was one written by my dear Egbon, Mr. J.K. Randu, where he opened by saying, and I quote, that the combination of 1 plus 2 and 5, making 8, has significant implications amongst magicians, amongst tarot card readers, amongst fortune tellers, snake charmers, and Pentecostal preachers of prosperity, who insist that it is supercharged with spiritual dimensions. Regardless, he goes on to say, we must abandon metaphysics and concentrate instead on heartily congratulating our nation's oldest bank on its 125th anniversary, end of quote. But I disagree with him slightly. Any entity that attains the age of 125 cannot complain if people take a spiritual approach to explaining the phenomenon. How many anything lasts 100 years, let alone 125 years? So let me add mine to it. For me, there are at least 3 takeaways from the FirstBank Odyssey. The first is the place of grace, which we describe as unmerited favor in the life of any human or institution. That factor cannot be explained by administrative acumen or just financial prudence or good business practices alone. It's important because so many old banks, well established, well run, all over the world have failed, even in old age. And many here will remember Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Baring Brothers in the UK, etc. And the number that have collapsed even here in living memory. And the collapse of some of them is not necessarily due to just mismanagement. In any event, who is to say which error of judgment can become so fatal? So there is something to be said about grace, about providence, about the hand of God. And I believe that there is reason for FirstBank to thank God for the hand of God in their story. The second is that the status of being an icon comes with responsibility. You have nothing more to prove except that good values can be allowed to thrive and should endure. As President Buhari said in his congratulatory message to the FirstBank at the weekend, purposefulness, prudence, and propriety have come to define this bank, this institution. For an iconic institution, every new day is legacy and history being made. The third and final point is a little presumptuous, and it is in the form of counsel. How does a 62-year-old man advise a 125-year-old? My counsel is that age is not a barrier to innovation and vision. Indeed, to take again from the scriptures, and you have been warned by His Royal Highness that I would resort to scripture. We are told that at the age of 90, Abraham got a fresh mandate from God. Regularly renewing your own mandate and reworking your vision will surely help to keep you ahead of the young Turks who continually challenge your premier status. We're extremely proud of the FirstBank because your success all these years reinforced our belief in ourselves as a people and as a nation, that not only are we capable of building great institutions, we can nurture them for centuries. So I'll end with a birthday prayer. As your days, so shall your strength, so shall your success, and so shall your favor with God. In Jesus' name. And everyone who says amen will live long. Oh, did I get you there? So happy Wasi centennial anniversary. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, sir.
I'm so in love with you. Whatever you want to do is alright with me. 'Cause you make me feel so brand new. I want to spend my life with you. Me say, sing, baby, since we've been together, ooh, loving you forever.
The Vice President of our great country, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, represented here by the Minister of Budget and Planning, Sarki Kanu Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, Excellencies, serving and incoming, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, I'd like to go straight to move the vote of thanks for what has been a wonderful outing witnessed by great distinguished personalities. It has been an interesting story of 125 years. The year was 1894. The month was March and the day was 31st. And here we are, 125 years on. We are celebrating an icon, a national heritage. From a humble beginning, we recorded very giant strides. And soon after birth, we became a regional powerhouse, becoming the monetary policy authority for not just Nigeria, but also British West Africa. And it's on record that we issued the currencies or the legal tender for those countries. Fast forward to now, we can proudly say that even though we built internal capacities, which made us to become accomplished, to a large extent we did what we did, and we have accomplished so much because we have a supportive sovereign. And I'd like to put on record the appreciation of this family, the FirstBank family, to the President for the letter he wrote to us. The words that were expressed, we take them to heart. And we make a promise that we'll continue to keep making this nation proud. We also want to say a big thank you to the Vice President, first for sending the wife to be with us all through the morning. And she also left us with very incredible messages of hope. Today you have also encouraged us. Again, we leave you with great words that we would keep sustaining the vision of our founding fathers. I want to thank our heroes past, with your kind permission. Board members that served, executives that served, management and staff that served this great institution over the last 125 years. I want to thank you for your hard work and the heritage you bequeathed to us. We make a promise that this generation of leaders will bequeath even a stronger bank that we all will be proud of. I want to thank all the serving directors, starting from our great visionary, the group chairman of FBN Holdings, Oba Otudeko CFR, and all the members of board of FBN Holdings. I want to thank also the chairman and board members of all the subsidiaries and operating entities of this great institution. I want to thank the over 20,000 staff of the group. I want to thank the supportive and loyal customers, over 15 million of them. And I want to, by extension, thank the over 1.3 million shareholders of the parent company, FBN Holdings PLC. We make a promise one more time, that even though we are celebrating 125 of this iconic institution, the achievements we're going to record in the next 125 years will indeed dwarf what we're celebrating today. On that note, I want to thank you for coming and for making this evening a wonderful evening together. God bless you all as you go back. Thank you.
Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem.
It's a woman in my